ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय करुणापूर्णसुदाब्धे कबलितघनविश्वरूपकिरणावल्या अरुणाचलपरमात्मन् अरुणो भवचित्तकञ्जसुविकासाय वन्दे श्रीरमणऋषे आचार्यस्य पदाब्जम् यो मे दर्शयधीशम् भान्तं ध्वान्तमतीत्यः अखण्डसच्चिदानन्दे परब्रह्मण्यलौकिके विलसन्तं गुरुं नौमिं सर्वदा हृद्यहं भजे. Day by Day with Bhagavan, episode number 19. 16/7/1946. Some of the Kairagar party came and asked leave of Bhagavan to go to Skandashramam. I told Bhagavan that yesterday Venkatrama Iyer and I went with the Rani and Kamakshi, and when we were at Virupaksha cave, Venkatarama Iyer told us that if anyone sits there quietly by himself and listens, he hears the sound Om. I asked him whether he had ever heard it, and he said that he had not yet had the chance to try. So now I ask Bhagavan whether it is true. Bhagavan only said, "They say so." I asked, "But did Bhagavan hear it?" And then I corrected myself and added, "But it is no use asking, because Bhagavan would hear Om or the Pranava sound everywhere, and it would not be due to the place if Bhagavan heard it there." Thereupon Bhagavan said, "Why don't you go and find out for yourself?" "Yes," I said, "I want to go and see. If a dunce like me has the experience, then there can be no doubt that it is due to the influence of the place." After a while, Bhagavan added, "It is generally said that not only is the cave in the shape of Om, but the sound Om is heard there." Suddhananda Bharati mentions it in his Ramana Vijayam. He ought to know because he lived there. So saying, Bhagavan took the book and showed me the relevant passage in chapter 24 entitled Guhan. A visitor asked Bhagavan what one should do for the betterment of Atma. Bhagavan: "What do you mean by Atma and by betterment?" Visitor: "We don't know all that. That is why we come here." Bhagavan: "The self or Atma is always as it is. There is no such thing as attaining it. All that is necessary is to give up regarding the not self as self and the unreal as real. When we give up identifying ourselves with the body, the self alone remains." Visitor: "But how is one to give up this identification? Will coming here and getting our doubts removed help in the process?" Bhagavan: "Questions are always about things that you don't know and will be endless unless you find out who the questioner is. Though the things about which the questions are asked are unknown, there can be no doubt that a questioner exists to ask the questions, and if you ask who he is, all doubts will be set at rest." Visitor: All that I want to know is whether satsang is necessary and whether my coming here will help me or not. Bhagavan, first you must decide what is satsang. It means association with Sat or reality. One who knows or has realized Sat is also regarded as Sat. Such association with Sat or with one who knows Sat is absolutely necessary for all. Shankara has said, Bhagavan here quoted the Sanskrit verse, that in all the three worlds there is no boat like satsang to carry one safely across the ocean of births and deaths. 17:7:46. This morning, Bhagavan was speaking about a letter from Mr. Pandey, principal of a college at Kathmandu, telling about an incident that Mr. Pandey has already described in the souvenir volume. A.N. Rao and I wanted to see it, so Bhagavan asked for the letter to be shown to us. This is the incident. Pandey went to the great temple in Tiruvannamalai on the evening of his departure. When he entered the innermost shrine, the lingam of Arunachalam was pointed out to him, and the young man who was with him, also a devotee of Bhagavan, cried out, Arunachala, Arunachala. But Pandey could not see any lingam, but only the face of Bhagavan, whichever side he turned. Everywhere the face of Bhagavan. 18:7:46. This morning, questions were put by a visitor by name S.P. Thayal. S.P. Thayal. I have been doing sadhana for nearly 20 years and I can see no progress. What should I do? Bhagavan, I may be able to say something if I know what the sadhana is. S.P. Thayal. From about 5 o'clock every morning, I concentrate on the thought that the self alone is real and all else unreal. Although I have been doing this for about 20 years, I cannot concentrate for more than 2 or 3 minutes without my thoughts wandering. Bhagavan, there is no other way to succeed than to draw the mind back every time it turns outwards and fix it in the self. There is no need for meditation or mantra or japa or dhyana or anything of the sort, because these are our real nature. All that is needed is to give up thinking of objects other than the self. Meditation is not so much thinking of the self as giving up thinking of the not self. When you give up thinking of outward objects and prevent your mind from going outwards and turn it inward and fix it in the self alone will remain. S.P. Thayal. What should I do to overcome the pull of these thoughts and desires? How should I regulate my life so as to attain control over my thoughts? Bhagavan. The more you get fixed in the self, the more other thoughts will drop off by themselves. The mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts, and the I thought is the root of all of them. When you see who this I is and whence it proceeds, all thoughts get merged in the self. Regulation of life, such as getting up at a fixed hour, bathing, doing mantra, japa, etc., observing ritual, All this is for people who do not feel drawn to self inquiry or are not capable of it. But for those who can practice this method, all rules and discipline are unnecessary. At this point, K.M. Jeevrajni interposed, has one necessarily to pass through the stage of seeing occult visions before attaining self realization? Bhagavan, why do you bother about visions and whether they come or not? K.M. Jeevrajni, I don't. I only want to know so that I shall not be disappointed if I don't have them. Bhagavan, visions are not a necessary stage. To some they come and to others they don't. But whether they come or not, you always exist and you must stick to that. K. M. Jeevrajani, I sometimes concentrate on the brain center and sometimes on the heart, not always on the same center. Is that wrong? Bhagavan, wherever you concentrate and on whatever center, there must be a you to concentrate. And that is what you must concentrate on. Different people concentrate on different centers, not only the brain and the heart, but also the space between the eyebrows, the tip of the nose, the tip of the tongue, the lowermost chakra, and even external objects. Such concentration may lead to a sort of laya in which you will feel a certain bliss, but care must be taken not to lose the thought I am in all this. You never cease to exist in all these experiences. K.M. Jeevrajani, that is to say that I must be a witness? Bhagavan, talking of the witness should not lead to the idea that there is a witness and something else apart from him that he is witnessing. The witness really means the light that illumines the seer, the seen, and the process of seeing. Before, during, and after the triads of seer, seen, and seeing, the illumination exists. It alone exists always. K. M. Jeevrajani, it is said in books that one should cultivate all the good or daivic qualities in order to prepare oneself for self realization. Bhagavan, all good or daivic qualities are included in jnana, and all bad asuric qualities are included in ajnana. When jnana comes, all ajnana goes and all daivic qualities come automatically. If a man is a jnani, he cannot utter a lie or do anything wrong. It is, no doubt, said in some books that one should cultivate one quality after another and thus prepare for ultimate moksha. But for those who follow the jnana or vichara marga, their sadhana is itself quite enough for acquiring all daivic qualities. They need not do anything else. 19:746. Again today a visitor put questions. I do not understand how to make the enquiry, who am I? Bhagavan, find out whence the I arises. Self-enquiry does not mean argument or reasoning such as goes on when you say, I am not this body, I am not the senses, etc. All that may also help, but it is not the enquiry. Watch and find out where in the body the I arises, and fix your mind on that. Visitor, will Gayatri help? Bhagavan, what is Gayatri? It really means let me concentrate on that which illumines all. Dhyana really means only concentrating or fixing the mind on the object of dhyana. But meditation is our real nature. If we give up other thoughts, what remains is I, and its nature is dhyana or meditation or jnana, whichever we choose to call it. What is at one time the means later becomes the end. Unless meditation or dhyana were the nature of the self, it could not take you to the self. If the means were not of the nature of the goal, it could not bring you to the goal. 27:46. In the afternoon, Sundaresa Iyer told Bhagavan that his daughter-in-law, Narayanaswamy Iyer's daughter, had severe labor pains and finally could bear it no longer and cried out, "Ramana, I cannot bear it." And immediately the delivery took place. Bhagavan merely said, "Is that so?" 21:7-46. In the afternoon, the following two questions were put by Mr. Bhargava, an elderly visitor from Jhansi in UP. 1. How am I to search for the I from start to finish? 2. When I meditate, I reach a stage where there is a vacuum or void. How should I proceed from there? Bhagavan, never mind whether there are visions or sounds or anything else or whether there is a void. Are you present during all this or are you not? You must have been there even during the void to be able to say that you experienced a void. To be fixed in that you is the quest for the I from start to finish. In all books on Vedanta, you will find this question of a void or of nothing being left raised by the disciple and answered by the Guru. It is the mind that sees objects and has experiences, and that finds a void when it ceases to see and experience. But that is not you. You are the constant illumination that lights up both the experiences and the void. It is like the theater light that enables you to see the theater, the actors, and the play while the play is going on, but also remains a light and enables you to say that there is no play on when it is all finished. Or there is another illustration. We see objects all around us, but in complete darkness we do not see them and we say, "I see nothing." Even then, the eyes are there to say that they see nothing. In the same way, you are there even in the void you mention. You are the witness of the three bodies, the gross, the subtle, and the causal, and of the three states, waking, dream, and deep sleep, and of the three times, past, present, and future, and also of this void. In the story of the 10th man, when each of the 10 counted and thought there were only 9, each one forgetting to count himself, there is a stage when they think one is missing and don't know who it is, and that corresponds to the void. We are so accustomed to the notion that all that we see around us is permanent and that we are this body that when all this ceases to exist, we imagine and fear that we also have ceased to exist. Bhagavan also quoted verses 212 and 213 from Viveka Chudamani, in which the disciple says, "After I eliminate the five sheets as not self, I find that nothing at all remains." And the Guru replied that the self, or that by which all modifications, including the ego and its creatures, and their absence, that is, the void, are perceived, is always there. Then Bhagavan continued speaking on the subject and said, "The nature of the self or I must be illumination. You perceive all modifications and their absence." How? To say that you get the illumination from another would raise the question how he got it, and there would be no end to the chain of reasoning. So, you yourself are the illumination. The usual illustration of this is the following. You make all kinds of sweets of various ingredients and in various shapes, and they all taste sweet because there is sugar in all of them, and sweetness is the nature of sugar. And in the same way, all experiences and the absence of them contain the illumination which is the nature of the self. Without the self, they cannot be experienced, just as without sugar, not one of the articles you make can taste sweet. A little later, Bhagavan also said, "First one sees the self as objects, then one sees the self as void, then one sees the self as self. Only in this last there is no seeing, because seeing is being." Mr. Bhargava also said something about sleep, and this led Bhagavan to speak about sleep as follows. What is required is to remain fixed in the self always. The obstacles to that are distraction by the things of the world, including sense objects, desires, and tendencies on the one hand, and sleep on the other. Sleep is always mentioned in books as the first obstacle to samadhi, and various methods are prescribed for overcoming it according to the stage of evolution of the person concerned. First, one is enjoined to give up all distraction by the world and its objects or by sleep. But then it is said, for instance, in the Gita, that one need not give up sleep entirely. Too much and too little are alike undesirable. One should not sleep at all during the daytime, and even during the night restrict sleep to the middle portion from about 10 to 2. But another method that is prescribed is not to bother about sleep at all. When it overtakes you, you can do nothing about it. So simply remain fixed in the self or in meditation every moment of your waking life, and take up the meditation again the moment you wake, and that will be enough. Then, even during sleep, the same current of thought or meditation will be working. This is evident because if a man goes to sleep with any strong thought working in his mind, he finds the same thought there when he wakes. It is of the man who does this with meditation that is said that even his sleep is samadhi. A good way to reduce the amount of sleep needed is to take only sattvic food, and that in moderation, and to avoid work or activity of any kind. 22:7:46. This morning, Vaidyanathan, the RDO, came into the hall and asked whether he could bring in the advisor Ramamurthy. Bhagavan gave permission and he brought in Ramamurthy and his party. Ramamurthy began to speak to Bhagavan in Telugu and said, I know that Bhagavan speaks Telugu because I came here 10 years ago with Raghavaya and found that Bhagavan spoke Telugu quite well. This, pointing to the man next to him, is my brother. He has opened an institute of naturopathy in Bangalore. Kameshwara Sharma is also working there. Thereupon his brother said, Bhagavan was pleased to send his blessings when the institute was opened. After that he added, I find it difficult to believe in a personal God. In fact, I find it impossible, but I can believe in an impersonal God, a divine force which rules and guides the world. And it would be a great help to me, even in my work of healing, if this faith were increased. May I know how to increase this faith? After a slight pause, Bhagavan replied, Faith is in things unknown, but the self is self-evident. Even the greatest egoist cannot deny his own existence, that is to say, cannot deny the self. You can call the ultimate reality by whatever name you like and say that you have faith in it or love for it, but who is there who will not have faith in his own existence or love for himself? That is because faith and love are our real nature. A little later, Ramamurthy asked, That which rises as I within us is the self, is it not? Bhagavan, no, it is the ego that rises as I. That from which it arises is the self. Ramamurthy, they speak of a lower and a higher Atman. Bhagavan, there is no such thing as lower or higher in Atman. Lower and higher apply to the forms, not to the self or Atman. Soon after, the party took leave, declining an invitation to stay to lunch as they had already arranged for lunch elsewhere. In the afternoon, Mr. Thayal of Calcutta spoke with Bhagavan again. Thayal, I do not always concentrate on the same center in the body. Sometimes I find it easier to concentrate on one center and sometimes on another. And sometimes when I concentrate on one center, the thought of its own accord goes and fixes itself in another. Why is that? Bhagavan, it may be because of past practices of yours. But in any case, it is immaterial on which center you concentrate, since the real heart is in every center and even outside the body. On whatever part of the body you may concentrate, or on whatever external object, the heart is there. K.M. Jeevrajni, intervening, asked, Can one concentrate at one time on one center and at another time on another, or should one concentrate always consistently on the same center? Bhagavan, as I have just said, there can be no harm wherever you concentrate, because concentration is only a means of giving up thoughts. Whatever the center or object on which you concentrate, he who concentrates is always the same. 24 7 46. Bhargava. What is awareness and how can one obtain and cultivate it? Bhagavan. You are awareness. Awareness is another name for you. Since you are awareness, there is no need to attain or cultivate it. This was obviously a bit too much for Bhargava, and he was wondering how it was an answer to his question. But Bhagavan came to his help by adding, all that you have to do is to give up being aware of other things, that is, of the not self. If one gives up being aware of them, then pure awareness alone remains, and that is the self. 28 7 46 morning. At about 10 a.m., as I entered the hall, Bhagavan was telling a visitor from Jaipur, what is the use of coming away from your house? You have left one home. This is another home. What can the home do? Nothing. It is the mind that does everything. After saying this, he continued, immediately the question is asked, then why did you come away from home? I asked Bhagavan, why did this man also ask that question? Bhagavan. No, he has not asked it, but I myself realize the inconsistency. Enai kullaye udaichikirade. On previous occasions, Bhagavan has answered this question in the following way. I came away because it was my prarabdha, and you will also go away if it is your prarabdha. In the evening, some Bairagi from Rishikesh came and complained in Hindi before Bhagavan for a long time that some Malayali sadhus there were trying to wipe out the existence of Ramanashramam at Rishikesh, founded by one Govindananda 25 years ago, and that he had come here to see that the land on which the ashramam was built 25 years ago is purchased and duly registered so that nobody can oust the present inmates of the ashramam from the place. He was told that the Sarvadhikari, who alone could deal with such matters, was absent and that Bhagavan would do nothing. The Bairagi was greatly vexed and left the hall even without staying for supper. On the 29th, I left for Chengalpat and returned only on the night of 2/8/46. 3/8/46. I find among the arrivals here during my absence the Zemindarini of Vuyur visiting the ashramam for the first time, and another young boy of 9 years, Apparao, hailing from Anakapalle. The boy is in some ways precocious and professes to be inclined towards sannyasa or spiritual life and is remarkably free from all fear. It seems he heard about Bhagavan first from his father, who visited Bhagavan about 2 years ago. The boy remembers and narrates accurately some incidents in Bhagavan's life at Skandashramam and Virupaksha, which he had heard from his father or others. It seems some Swami visiting Anakapalle recently spoke about Bhagavan, and hearing that, the boy in a mood of enthusiasm has run away here all by himself, unknown to his parents. It is said that once before he ran away to Benares and stayed there for a day and returned. When somebody asked him, is it proper for you to take up this sort of life so soon? Your business now is to attend school and learn. He replied, did not Shankara leave his home when he was only 7? The boy is still here and our Nagamma has written to his mother about the boy's arrival. This afternoon at 2:30 p.m., I found Bhagavan seated on a cot in the dining hall. While I was wondering why, a party of a dozen devotees came and took their seats in front of Bhagavan. They soon started a bhajan which went on till 4 p.m. and was full of devotion. The party had come from Srivilliputtur, where they belong to Ramamatham, which it seems has been in existence for more than 50 years. They not only sang but danced and performed kummi and went through various movements, all reminiscent of Krishna's diversions in Vrindavan. After evening Parayana, P.C. Desai and Vishwanath were correcting in Bhagavan's presence the proofs of Kapali Shastri's Sanskrit commentary on Ramana Gita. 4:46. This morning Yogi Ramayya arrived. About 9:30 a.m., Bhagavan was looking into the Tamil paper Hindustan and read out to me the following dialogue from it. First man: it is only if sorrows or troubles come to us that we think of God. Second man: ah, you fool, if we are always thinking of God, how can any sorrows or troubles come to us? Why Bhagavan drew my attention to this, I do not know. I wonder if it is because I generally argue with him that it should not be necessary for an all-powerful and all-loving God to make us pass through pain to turn us towards him. Most of the day, the proof correction went on. 5:46. The proofreading continued today and was finished in the evening. The boy Apparao would seem to be only a truant. His brother has written to Nagamma in reply. The Zamindarini of Uyur, who is leaving for Madras today, has taken the boy with her, promising to send him by train to Anakapalle. 6:46 morning. A visitor introduced himself to Bhagavan as one who was at Singapore for many years and who knows Mr. Narayana Iyer of Singapore. I found later that this gentleman is Rajam Iyer from Tinnaveli. In the afternoon, T.S. Rajagopal, while clearing and rearranging the bookshelves, came across a notebook. Bhagavan said, "This is the notebook K.K. Nambiyar gave me. It was a very strange thing. There used to be a number of bound notebooks like this with us then. But still, Madhavan did not give me one, though I was asking for one for 2 or 3 days. Somehow he was indifferent, and I too did not press him. On the third day, Nambiyar, who was then engineer here, came and gave me this notebook and said, 'Here is the notebook Bhagavan wanted.' Then it came out that he had a dream in which, it seems, I told him I wanted a notebook of such and such a kind and of such and such dimensions. He is now in America." Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Sarvam Sri Ramanarpanamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.